Hello, this is Ed Mofrad again of Around the Valuation World of NACVA. We are here in Las Vegas, June 19th, 2018. I just finished listening to Mr. Garth Tebay's wonderful presentation, and he was kind enough to come here to answer a few questions for us. The topic of his discussion was weighted average cost of capital, and I wanted to ask you a few more questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
When is weighted average cost of capital used?
Well, the short answer is all the time. Weighted average cost of capital is a powerful tool. When used properly, can be extremely beneficial to the valuator and the end user. So it's a method in which it considers the capital structure of the company, both the debt and the equity, and various types of equity such as preferred versus common, and it considers the different capital structure of the specific company when determining cost of capital. And so it's a very tailored, very custom approach to value a company, and really can be beneficial for most all valuations.
Yes, as I was listening to your presentation, you got very detailed about debt versus equity, and it seemed to encompass everything. So the question is, when is it not used? When is weighted average cost of capital, or WACC as the acronym is pronounced, when is it not used?
It doesn't work well with over-leveraged companies. And the issue is that the repayment of debt, when it's being a substantial repayment of debt over a series of years, will affect the capital structure dramatically and not be captured properly in a distressed financial condition. WACC is not a very good tool to use for those situations. And what the alternative would be a discounted cash flow, where you forecast out as many years as it takes to repay the debt to a point where the debt and the equity capital become optimized again, and then you'd be in a position to use WACC for purposes of computing the terminal value.
And is it true that WACC is the most widely used discount method, and if so, why?
Yes, it's the most widely used, and I think that it is because we have the ability to tailor the cost of capital to the specific assignment, the subject company that we're valuing, as opposed to an industry standard or something of that nature. This particular methodology allows us to measure specifically the capital structure of the subject company as opposed to any other benchmarks.
And you calculated your own model, right?
I prepared a model that
How does that work?
people can use. Well, it's like a lot of things. I tend to start with a blank piece of paper and sort of work from there. But it's a model that is designed to make it so much easier to use weighted average cost of capital. One of the complaints that you hear from practitioners is weighted average cost of capital is too complicated. Well, that wouldn't be a good reason not to use it, just because it's complicated. But what I've done is create a model that makes it easy to use. It'll do the iterations for you in a matter of 3 to 4 seconds. It will unlever and relever the cost of equity capital as the debt and equity weights are being recalculated. So it's a model that considers both the cost of capital and the cost of equity weight all in one particular calculation. It's really quite simple.
And our listeners, viewers watching us right now, how would they access that? How would they access your work?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% certain. The ones that went to the conference here and the ones that were online, they all got a copy of the model. I suppose they'd contact NACVA and.
Can they contact you directly, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure they can.
And can you explain deal value?
Well, deal value is, as I said to some people in the conference, I was talking to Chris Hamilton about WAC, and as the people out there may know, a lot of us talk to each other frequently about valuation engagements. And people will call me, I'll call them, and it's a nice community that NACVA has.
Of course.
And a lot of people share a lot of ideas and support. So I was talking to Chris, and with one of the complexities I was having with regard to the capital structure being optimized and et cetera, and his response was, well, you're calculating the deal value. Deal value being really, what is the deal worth to a buyer and a seller? And that sometimes varies from fair market value. Fair market value may not necessarily represent an actual deal, whereas deal value is intended to really represent the price that a buyer and seller would ultimately negotiate based on the cash flows and the capital structure of the buyer. So I coined it deal value. I think it helped the members today see the difference between the different types of value, buyer's perspective, seller's perspective, et cetera, and then the deal, sort of a blend of the two. So it was interesting.
And you said something that certainly perked my ears. You said valuators could use this to create an additional revenue source. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
I just recently had a job that where I was to value the common equity as well as preferred stock. And the preferred stock was being issued in what is referred to as a stock recapitalization. And under this stock recapitalization, the controlling shareholder parent is gifting the controlling stock over to the son, and then receiving in exchange preferred stock. And so the question is, what's the value of the preferred stock, and then what's the value of the common stock for purposes of the reorganization, the gift? It's referred to as a preferred stock recapitalization. It's not new, but when you look at the number of baby boomers that we have in the United States today, the last I heard is the volume of value is well over $8 trillion, and I'm not sure how many baby boomers fall into that, but it's in the hundreds of thousands that need to transfer their ownership or sell or merge their ownership to put themselves in a position where they've recognized the liquidity of their investment, and so it's common right now for them to be looking at alternatives so that they can get to a position where they can have the cash flow from their investment to retire on, and they can pass on the torch, pass on the company to the next generation, or maybe even employees, or et cetera. So it's one of those methods that people could take advantage of. They certainly need an evaluator to do it, and I found it to be a good job. So.
Okay, Mr. Garth Tebay, flying here all the way from Toledo, Ohio,
Yep.
to be with us and give me, Ed Mofrad of Los Angeles, California, the honor, the pleasure of interviewing him.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.